first reading will be from 2 Kings, the second chapter, and it's been extended by a few verses. Now, when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in the whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives, and you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. The company of prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he said, "Yes, I know, but keep silent." Elijah said to him, "Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they came to Jericho. The company of prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he answered, "Yes, I know." Be silent. Then Elijah said to him, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. 50 men of the company of prophets also went and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his mantle, rolled it up, and struck the water. The water was parted to one side and to the other, until the two of them crossed on dry land. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I may do for you before I am taken from you." Elisha said, "Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit." He responded, "You have asked a hard thing, yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it will be granted you. If not, it will not." As they continued walking and talking, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them, and Elijah ascended in a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha kept watching him, crying out, "Father, Father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." But when he could no longer see him, he grasped his own clothes and tore them into pieces. He picked up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the banks of the Jordan. He took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water, saying, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" When he had struck the water was parted to the one side and to the other, and Elisha went over. The word of the Lord.
I really love the reading from 2 Kings today involving Elisha and Elijah, despite the fact that you sort of have to keep track of who's doing what because the pronunciation of their names is so close. You will notice that when June read the reading this morning, we added a couple extra verses to what was in your bulletin. Those two verses are crucial to understanding Elijah and Elisha's relationship with one another. And their relationship is what I love most about this reading. Elisha is eager to learn everything that he possibly can from Elijah. Elisha admires Elijah's prophetic abilities and his devotion to God. Elisha becomes Elijah's closest companion, sort of following him around like a puppy dog. And Elisha vows to never leave Elijah's side. He can hardly imagine life without him. Elisha will do anything to carry on the work of Elijah. I venture to guess that Elisha feels like Elijah saved his life, because the course of his life has been changed forever due to this one man, due to his mentor, Elijah. And so when the people say over and over again to him, "Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" Elisha tells the people, "Yes, I know, be silent," which is sort of a sanitized way of saying "shut up," which are words that I really didn't want my children to ever use because I find them incredibly disrespectful and degrading. But in this instance, they seem somewhat apropos. The thought of losing Elijah is more than he can possibly bear. Plus, Elisha must be having an identity crisis. Who is he without Elijah? Certainly, he hasn't learned all that he possibly could or become all that he possibly could if Elijah stuck around longer, which is why he ends up requesting a double portion of Elijah's spirit. Now, it would be easy to read this request as an arrogant demand to be better than Elijah, to surpass him in every way, to be the best prophet in the world. But I think in this moment, Elisha believes that he needs more of the spirit that God gave to Elijah because he's just not good enough. He believes he's starting off at a lower point than Elijah. He's less gifted, less talented, and he needs double what Elijah had just to get him on level ground with him. Whatever it was that sustained Elijah through his joys and his sorrows, whatever it was that emboldened Elijah in the face of controversy and comforted him in silence, whatever it was that made him who he was, Elisha wants that. I want that. There are plenty of days that I feel I am failing as a mother, as a friend, as a pastor, as a wife. Basically, there are plenty of times that I am failing to be the person that God calls me to be. So I get where Elisha's desperation rises from. Anyway, we all know the story, right? Elisha gets swept up in a whirlwind of chariots and horsemen, leaving Elisha's side before Elisha thinks he's ready. And then there's those 2 extra verses that I had read this morning, and they say, he picked up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and went back and stood on the Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and he struck the water, saying, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? And when he struck the waters parted to one side and to the other, and Elisha went over. So I guess, as Elisha stood on the shore, now what must be racing through his mind, followed closely by what in the world have I gotten myself into? Because now it's Elisha's time. It's no longer about Elijah. So as the waters parted for Elisha, and he ventured that first step into his new life, God's Spirit propelling him forward, I'm guessing that Elijah must have smiled down on him from heaven, so very proud of what he was becoming. And Elisha probably sighed a heavy, gracious thank you up towards heaven to his mentor Elijah and to his God. As Elisha lived out his part in God's story, I am confident that he realized that he does not bear the mantle of God alone. None of us do. Now, initially, I was thinking of penning what I believe Elisha's thank you note to Elijah would have said. But as I thought about what he would have said, I couldn't help but think of all the people to whom I should say thank you. People who believed in me even when I didn't. People who have corrected me for my own sake. People who have taught and nurtured me. People who have cared for me and loved me, even when I hardly loved myself. People who really saw me for all the gifts and talents that I brought, and also for all the warts and failings. And they still chose to be in relationship with me and sacrifice their time and their resources for me, just so I might reflect a fraction of what God has in mind. And as I remember these people, the list is long, which is somewhat astounding. And it makes my heart grateful. Grateful to God and grateful for their particular ministries, and grateful for all the people who walk with us through this thing called life. I am grateful for James Adkins, who was my high school band director. He had more energy than the Energizer Bunny, and he taught me about the power of positive attitude. And he believed that I really could make a go of it in music, which I did for a while. It seems like an entire lifetime ago. But he always had this jar of candy fireballs on his desk. And to this day, whenever I see a fireball, which I never ever eat, but right, they always remind me of him. And when I was homesick in college, he wrote me a letter on music staff paper to remind me that I had a gift, not to give up, and to just keep on keeping on. And I'm pretty sure I have that letter folded away someplace in like a high school yearbook. And I am grateful for my own pastor, Phil Hirsch. Some of you may know him. He saved my life, which sounds a little dramatic, but for me it's true. And I have thanked him many, many times over the years, but it never seems enough or adequate. His compassion for people is enviable, and his love for Jesus pervasive. It made all the difference to me that in his own subtle way, he mantled me for ministry. And I am grateful to Kristen Largent, who was one of my systematic professors in seminary. And she taught me that you could wear amazing pink shoes and still be a pastor and still be smart while being a woman. She also believed that I had a unique voice that the church needed, and she would never accept less than my very, very best. And I'm also grateful to my children. Carter taught me to be a mom and about sacrificial love. And Jackson taught me how to embody grace and compassion. And Cooper taught me to hang on tight through change and to fight for what you believe in. And Maddie has taught me that holding out for hope can be really painful, but it's all worth it. My husband and my parents, right, my list is long. And there are a couple other significant people that I should thank, but I'm confident that public thanks would embarrass them. But there are many people in my life who believe that I could part the waters, figuratively speaking, and speak of God's love and promise and grace. But that's not just my story, right? We are all here because someone, or many someones, lived the story of Christ in their own unique way, and quietly passed it on through us through teaching and guiding and nurturing, and compelled us to follow. We all have our own Elijahs for whom we give thanks. You guys just listened to me recount parts of my story, but my story, while connected to your story, is not your story. It's not your thank you note. So this week, I would like you to try something. I have blank thank you notes that I'm going to put in the narthex when you all leave here. I have blank thank you notes. And I would like you to take one, and this is like your homework for the week, and thank one person who shaped your life, who believed in you, that God used to chisel you into who you are today. And it can be anybody. The person can be younger than you or older than you. The person can be within the church or outside of the church. It can be a member of your family. It can be somebody that you haven't spoken to in 25 years. But I want you to let the mantle of what they handed to you rest with promise and expectation on your shoulders. And I want you to write to them about why it matters to you and why they matter to you. And I want you to send it to them, not via email and not via text. I want you to use the old-fashioned postal system. And I know it seems a little silly and uncomfortable, but I think it's important. And I hope that you will take this risk. It will mean a lot to them to know that their voice lived on in you, and that you recognize that they gave you part of their spirit, and that part of God's spirit lives in you through them. As I close, maybe because I'm a silly theologian, I would like to also say that I am grateful to Elisha, who followed and stuck by Elijah until the very end. I'm grateful that as he held out the mantle of his mentor over the waters, he challenged God. He challenged him with a "where is the God of Elijah?" daring God to show up and do something in his life. When God parted those waters, he responded to him with a definitive, "I'm right here. Let's get moving." So I pray that you might take up the mantle that has been passed to you, and trust that the spirit of those who have handed it to you lives within you. And may you know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the mighty God of Elijah will show up for you as well. I know he will. He always does.